I think personally it would be a good idea if they did anyway. Let's try it. He was always so weird in this because like they actually kind of got like how he was in the show. Like if you remember from the first season how Billy was, kind of like nerdy and all like this stuff. Like he didn't really fight too much. It looks like he's trying to take like a dump here. But yeah, and the fighting, the stuff he does, like the rapid punching and everything, is just hilarious. But he got better as the show went on. Like he became one of my favorite characters. It's just too bad, like like all the shit that they were saying about him, like on the show and stuff, like making fun of him for being gay. Like I'm just really surprised that like nobody really stood up for him. I mean maybe people didn't want to lose their jobs and shit like that, but that's still wrong. Especially like in the early '90s when that stuff happened. Like how people like were crucified. Oop, that's that again. Yeah, I'm not doing good. Why is it this level that I always seem to get stabbed at a lot? I don't really remember the putties having knives. I remember some of them had like clay sword hands, like in some of them. Yeah. Kick the door. Boom. Love this game. Yeah. Away. And NATO. Oh boy. Yeah. Oh, cool. I got it. But yeah, he did become one of my favorite Rangers over time. Yeah, there's that punch. Okay. All right, that's it. Oh, God. Food. Yeah, just random food. Like I can understand like maybe in this game, but like when you play like a game like Streets of Rage or Final Fight and you find like turkey in a trash can, you should be losing health, not gaining it back. There we go. Just keep moving. Just whoop. Da 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 da. Yeah da 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 da. That's right, I did it. But he had a Billy's David Yost's character Billy. He had his character I think went through the most physical changes because you saw at one point like he wore contacts. He was a little bit slimmer. He was like less nerdy. They taught him how to fight and everything. They taught him some moves, which was pretty good. That was pretty helpful to him. And he had a pretty good story going. But a lot of other characters you never really knew about. And that's what I think could have made the show a bit better. Because, I mean, they ran, like, the first season of Power Rangers was, like, what was it, like 50-something episodes or whatever? Like, before they got, like, to the White Ranger series and the Green Ranger or something like that. It was, like, 50-something episodes. So they could have done more. Like, I know, like, they used a lot of the footage from the Japanese and everything. But, man, they could have done so much more with that. Which is, again, why I hope this new one coming out. I don't even remember this guy in the show either. I really don't recall them. That one's got black eyes. I don't trust it. Ooh, yeah. This is why I love doing this game, too. This friggin', oh, yeah, it's got an open face. I love this, you press up and Y, and he does, like, this spinning thing for his lances. And he actually had some of the coolest weapons in the show. I remember as a kid, my buddies and I used to play a series. Like, it was a series that we all created. We had loved video games, and shows like Power Rangers and Pocky and Rocky. My heavily influence was Japanese culture. And like stuff from like Spider-Man, the X-Men, and all that stuff. So we eventually made our own series because little kids they'll play stuff like that when they're kids. Make up their own characters. Fight around like thinking like go into the woods and find the coolest looking stick as your weapon. Like one that actually looked like a sword or was like broken off of a limb of a tree. It wasn't too heavy. It was just perfect. Those were good days. But we had made up our own series. And when we couldn't find good sticks in the woods or anything like that, my buddy Josh, who I will get here for a Let's Play at one point, probably the HD version of Soul Calibur 2, and maybe if I go through and do Resident Evil 2 as Leon, because I went through as Claire a couple months back, as many of you remember. But, oh, this is gonna hurt. What? It's getting like that. But he had all the original Power Ranger weapons, like the battle axe, the lances, the daggers. And since the daggers were yellow, and Josh, the character he made, was half cat, like a cat creature, and and it could use lightning. That was his shoot. He would have him shoot lightning and use the daggers to conduct them and everything. You know, super fast. The daggers could strike fast and everything. I always ended up Stick actually. He wanted to use the axe because the axe doubled as like a gun and a gun and an axe. Duh, I'm an idiot. Again, it's hard for me to do these talk normal and do these games at the same time. But you know, he chose those, and I always wanted the axe too. But I chose the sword, the Red Ranger sword. But I also chose the lances sometimes too, because they were pretty cool. Like they were two of them. And but most of the time, I was using the. Oh wait a minute! No, actually, I didn't really use the Red Ranger sword that much. I did use the lances. It was Josh had actually saved the sword for himself. Like since no one really wanted it because. It wasn't actually as cool looking as it was in the show. All the other weapons were, except for the Red Ranger sword. It's just going up there. Oh yeah. Let's see if there's anything up there. Nope. Yeah, no. Josh kept it as like a third weapon, like a backup kind of thing. Remember? I think it was. Yeah, it was Stick's sister. She actually used when she played with us. And she was like the hero of the group, and she used Kimberly's staff and everything. The bow. And then she could like shoot healing arrows and stuff. My God, now I'm having like serious flashbacks because I still live in the neighborhood where we all grew up and played. The only ones left are me and Josh. We're the only original family left on this block. Stick actually lives down the street. It's like less than like a 5-minute drive down the road. And Joey, who used to live next door to me, his parents moved to the other side of our town. Come on, right, you know what? I'm getting that with you. That is. Okay. Yeah. Forget it. No, that's a waste of a bomb. But yeah, he moved away with his folks on the other side of town, and Corey. Man, where did he move? He moved to New Hampshire at one point, and then he moved back, I think, like a year later. He lives somewhere here in Norwood. We lost contact with Corey. Unfortunately, the town I live in, it used to be a great town to live in when you were younger. Unfortunately, it's become pretty bad due to drugs. It's pretty sad that of how the state of this town is going. And Corey was unfortunately one of those people who got hooked into drugs really bad. Like I said, a lot of us didn't see him for a while. We heard what happened. It was tough. I think he's been clean for a year now or something like that. So, good for him. He's one of the few that actually were able to change and make a difference because there was just so many people from this town that they either didn't have the support or they just didn't do it. Okay, see, that was easy. But yeah, drugs are bad. That's why I prefer to spend all my money on video games. And I don't drink either. So there you go. I have money to buy video games. Because everybody on my Facebook who drinks are all like, oh, I have no money to go out and buy food or get this dress I want or this cool gun. Because I got some guys who are gun nuts because they all spend their money on drugs and, drinking. And cigarettes around here in Massachusetts, let me tell you something. They're almost $10 a pack. I'm glad I never started smoking those things. Ugh.